Hello, everyone. I was thinking. Collin Trevvorow. Does the average person even know that name? He was given Jurassic World a couple years ago as director. He wrote Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and he wrote Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom with his creative partner that he started his career with. And he started his career not long ago. He had one major release film. It wasn't even that big. It was a $500,000 indie called Safety Not Guaranteed, based on an internet meme that took place mostly in cabs and apartment buildings. And it was cheeky. It could have been easily shot for YouTube for free. I don't know where the $500,000 comes from in that movie. Maybe the talent. It's got to all be above the line. But the point was, it's like just this dinky little movie. And suddenly, based on the merits of that, he was given Jurassic World.
Jurassic something. What we realized is that when you're dealing with, of course, a global franchise of this size, it can be very confusing.
Steven Spielberg met with him for lunch and said, do you want to make a movie about dinosaurs with guns on their backs that take over the world and Terminators ride them down, And he's like, yeah. And this is based on the merits of that one dinky little DC cab. That's how I think of it. I'm sorry. I kind of make fun of Safety Not Guaranteed. It reminds me of DC Cab, where it's people sitting in cars in close medium shots talking. And I'm like, based on that, they gave him the biggest CGI spectacle under Star Wars. Like, wow. That gave me an hope. Not that I would make a movie, but the people I know can make movies, for God's sake. Like, just some schmuck based on something he threw on Netflix. Do you have any idea the amount of movies shot for $500,000 that are on Netflix right now? Stuff in the Asylum is shot for that much. Those mockbusters, those fake movies, those are awesome, by the way. I'm not knocking them. But they churn them out like one every couple weeks. And it's like throwing one of them Star Wars Episode 9. And that's essentially what Disney's doing, just to try to keep all of the money in the effects and in the marketing. And they try to keep as little of the money above the line as possible, believe it or not. As little money as possible is going to the talent and the creative forces in the movie. And the rest is going into making it flashy and selling it. So I was thinking, why don't, our celebrities, like our YouTube celebrities, the people that we love, why don't you take a stab at writing one of these movies? Because I promise you they'll hire you. And it's so funny to me that we're sitting here criticizing these movies anyway, when some schmuck who shot a space cop level movie was given Jurassic World. And I'm like, why don't Red Letter Media actually direct these horror movies they criticize? Or the super movies they criticize? Because they're just giving them to these idiots. And they're just giving it to some guy like Rian Johnson. Now, Rian Johnson has a little more of a pedigree than Collin Trevvorow. Rian Johnson shot Star Wars Episode 8, this really divisive one that has the fans loving it or hating it. It's not all hate. I've talked to people that are still I saw it 4 times, it blew me away. And then there's people like me in the middle that are like, Luke died, it's a bunch of shit. I just don't care. It's already left my consciousness. And then there's the people that are like, it ruined my childhood and I want it remade, and they're buying into that whole troll campaign about it being remade. Just a side note, that Episode 8 remake campaign, I promise you, is going to get sidelined into some charity, and they're going to be like, sorry, we ruined your childhood, nerds, so don't give it any money. That's not going to go to remaking Star Wars. It's going to be like, we redonated this to the LGBT community. That's what's going to happen. And I'm not saying they shouldn't get the money, but it's going to be under false pretenses. It's going to be like, haha, trolled you, got you again. So if you don't want to get kicked in the nuts twice, don't donate to that Episode 8 remake campaign. Anyway, Rian Johnson, back in the day, he directed this awesome, awesome movie called Brick. And I recommend everyone see it. And back in the day, I passed that movie around, my copy, and I would be like, see, it's shot in this beautiful old-fashioned style. The dialogue is deliberately written like a late 40s Humphrey Bogart film noir. Something like The Maltese Falcon. And it stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt before he was anybody. And I still remember at the time referring to him as that kid from Third Rock. He hates that now, apparently. But it also had Lucas Haas from Witness. And everyone thinks of him as like the flappy-eared Amish kid who's like the little like doe-eyed scamp. And in this movie, he's the heroin dealer. Like, of the aforementioned Brick, he's the bad guy. And he even looks a little Amish. He's always in solid black. He actually looks just like that, the goth kid from Parks and Rec. The guy that like does, like, you forgot to paint a painting, son. Anyway. So that movie is like, again, I think even way cheaper than $500,000. He brags about it being shot for pocket change. You know, we're talking like single thousands, maybe 10 or 20,000. So after Brick, they give Rian Johnson, what was that movie? Looper. And I saw it in theaters. And that was somewhat sabotaged. You know, people always talk about how Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who starred in Brick and is obviously friends with Rian Johnson, and he had this prosthetic nose on the whole shoot that people are like, this is so distracting. It doesn't even look like Bruce Willis. That's because Bruce Willis was also supposed to put on a prosthetic, but he's such a famous prima donna that he's like, no, I'm not doing it. No, screw it. No, I'm not sitting in makeup. No, get it off me. No. So he just makes Gordon-Levitt look bizarre by having this nose when he didn't wear it. And Levitt had already committed to his character, and he's a professional. And he doesn't just show up and start screaming at the director like on Cop Out. Anyway, I'm sorry I get sidelined so much on these things. The point of this entire video is that Doug Walker, James Rolphe, Mike Stoklasa, Jay Bowman, just write a goddamn Jurassic Park or Star Wars movie. I don't know why you're not doing that. And for God's sake, it'll be better than Collin Trevvorow, Rian Johnson, and whoever else they're just going to pull off a bus stop to direct the next one. I give you that they took a little step up. They're like, well, who's left? Spielberg's not really working anymore, so Ron Howard. Yeah. Who else we got? JJ, will you come back? You know? That's what they're doing right now. But I think we could make a really good pitch for, why don't you let people that are directly connected to the mainline fans that know exactly what they want, because they're part of it, you know, especially Red Letter Media, why don't they write one of these Star Wars anthology films? I mean, it seems like the Boba Fett movie would be perfect for them. And I think it's funny that maybe they don't think they're ready for the big time like that. Because just go throw a copy of Space Cop on Kathleen Kennedy's desk, or Bob Iger, or whoever. You know, and just be like, here, I can direct something. It's got a bunch of goofy effects, and it's got a goofy tone. It's got a bunch of aliens in it. It's got a bunch of makeup and a bunch of practicals. And they'll be like, yeah, stop. You sold me. And it's funny to hear Mike joke about how directing is today. Like, he was joking about what it must have been like for Spielberg to direct Ready Player One. And he's like, could you put a little more light behind that CGI dinosaur? Like, put a little more explosion behind that dinosaur. He's like, the animator's looking up from the keyboard like, what do you think, Mr. Spielberg? Oh no, yeah, what is it? Vilmos Zsigmond, his cinematographer. He's like, how do I light this? How do I light this? You could be that guy, Mike. You could be that guy with Vilmos Zsigmond and as your DP, and you're looking at an intern over a computer lighting a dinosaur. In a sea of interns reminiscent of that room that Mr. Burns walks into with the monkeys and the typewriters. And that could be you. That could be you and Jay walking into the writer's room at Disney like, it was the best of times, it was the blurst of times. Anyway, give it a thought, please. Don't make me make another video on this. I'm probably going to anyway.